My name is Ibrahim Traoré. I am a man just like you, born on this land in Burkina Faso, raised under the same sun that shines on us today. But today I want to share a story, a simple one. It's not a story about titles or power. It's a story about respect, about dignity, about what it truly means to be human. It happened on a flight, seat 2A, bound for Ouagadougou, our capital. Let me tell you what happened so that we can all learn together. It was a busy afternoon at the airport. People rushing, bags in hand, some laughing, some tired, some arguing. The noise of rolling suitcases, announcements, and chatter filled the air. I was just one of the crowd, no different from anyone else. Simple clothes, clean but plain shoes, a small bag with just enough to get by. I wasn't wearing a suit or a fancy watch, no big briefcase or laptop in hand. I sat quietly in the first-class lounge, waiting for my flight, watching the others. They sipped drinks, scrolled through their phones, or talked about business. I didn't speak, I just listened. A few people glanced at me, then looked away, clearly wondering, who is he? Why is he here? I could tell they were confused. I wasn't dressed like a businessman. I didn't look rich or important. But I sat there, peaceful, just like everyone else. And then it was my turn. I stepped forward and handed the agent my ticket. Her smile faded. She looked at me, then back at my clothes. She raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me, sir," she said, stepping in front of me. "You must be lost. This lane is for first-class passengers." I stayed calm. I handed her my ticket again. "This is my ticket," I said softly. She glanced at it, scrutinizing it like she didn't believe what she saw. Then she read aloud, almost to herself. "Seat 2A," she looked at me, her eyes narrowing with doubt. "This must be a mistake." She looked me up and down, clearly unsure. "Sir," she said, her voice growing colder, this flight is not for someone of your color." A few heads turned. People were starting to watch. Some took out their phones, recording the scene. The agent's voice grew louder. "You must have booked economy by mistake. Maybe someone else used your card." I stayed still. My heart steady, I repeated, "I bought a first-class ticket. This is my seat." She laughed, but it wasn't a kind laugh. "You can't even pronounce the name of this airline, and you want to sit in first class." The crowd seemed to grow restless, whispers spreading. More phones were raised. A younger attendant, someone who had been watching from the back, came over. He looked at the situation, concerned. "Is everything okay?" he asked. Clara, the agent, leaned in toward him, whispering so I could hear. "This guy's trying to sneak into first class with a fake ticket." The young man took my ticket and scanned it with a small device. A soft beep, followed by a green check mark. "It's valid," he said quietly. Clara's face twisted with frustration, but she was silent. "It doesn't matter," she snapped. "Look at him. Do you really think he belongs here?" I stepped aside to let a mother with a baby pass. I turned back to Clara and said calmly, "I'm not here for drama. I just want to sit in my seat." The young man looked at Clara, concerned. "Maybe we should just let him through." She cut him off sharply. "You want to lose your job over this?" I sighed, my voice calm but firm. "I'll take my seat now." She stood frozen, unsure of what to do, her authority slipping away in front of everyone. Finally, she stepped aside, but as I passed, she hissed at me, "We'll see how long you last in that seat." I walked into the plane, the first-class cabin quiet and cool. The smell of leather and cologne filled the air. I put my bag in the overhead bin and took my seat, 2A, by the window. I pulled out a small notebook and a pen and began to write. Not a word of anger, not a frown, not even a sigh. Clara entered the cabin, glancing at me for a moment before turning to serve drinks to the other passengers. She ignored me entirely. A man a few rows away, François Dor, a French CEO, adjusted his tie and glanced at me. I didn't speak, but I felt his gaze. Then the intercom crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are preparing for takeoff. Please fasten your seatbelts." I closed my notebook, looked out the window, and let the engine roar as the plane took off. Below, the world vanished. But inside this plane, a storm was brewing. Above the clouds, Clara continued to serve the other passengers, her smile bright for everyone except me. When she reached 2B, the woman sitting next to me, a French lady with pearl earrings, asked for green tea. Clara nodded with a polite smile. Then she turned to me, her voice flat. "What do you want to drink?" "Just water, please," I said gently. She rolled her eyes, sparkling or still. "Still water, please," I replied. She dropped the bottle on my tray. It nearly spilled. No napkin, no smile, just an empty gesture. I picked up the bottle, tightened the cap and took a sip. I stayed calm. Francois, the CEO, noticed. He didn't like what he saw. Clara came by again, handing out hot towels. When she reached me, she ignored my seat entirely. A woman in 2B whispered to herself, "Why does she keep ignoring him? He's not causing trouble." A man in 3C leaned toward his wife. "Maybe she thinks he doesn't belong here." In the economy cabin, laughter and baby cries filled the air. The plane rocked gently with light turbulence, but inside first class, the tension was palpable. The young attendant walked up to Clara. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" She sighed. "What now?" He leaned in. "You need to stop treating that man like he's invisible. People are noticing. They're filming." Clara's eyes flashed. "Let them film. Let the whole world see that seat doesn't belong to people like him. He bought the ticket fine, but he doesn't belong here. We all know it." The young attendant looked alarmed. "You're crossing a line." "No," Clara spat. "He crossed the line. People like him should know their place. Let them face the pressure." Suddenly, the plane jolted, sending passengers gripping their armrests. The turbulence hit harder. Clara moved back down the aisle, checking seat belts. When she reached me, she stopped and smirked. "Better buckle up tight," she sneered. "Wouldn't want you flying out of your seat." "Thanks for the reminder," I said calmly. Her face hardened. She wasn't expecting my calm, but she moved on. Lunch was served. The attendants placed fancy trays before passengers. Clara dropped one in front of me. "Here, hope this meets your standards," she said with a bite. "Thank you," I replied unfazed. Francois couldn't take it anymore. He leaned toward Clara, his voice quiet but firm. "Excuse me," he said. "Why are you treating that man with such disrespect?" Clara's face turned red. "Sir, please mind your business," she snapped. Francois didn't back down. This is my business. I paid for peace, not to watch you insult a paying passenger." Others around nodded in agreement. Some even clapped. Clara stormed to the galley, muttering under her breath, "How dare they defend him? Who does he think he is?" But in 2A, I was silent. The storm was no longer in the sky. It was on the ground. The plane began its descent. The clouds parted, and the lights of Ouagadougou shimmered below. As we touched down, a soft applause filled the cabin. But Clara wasn't done. As passengers unbuckled their seatbelts, she walked up to me again, her voice low, venomous. "I wish you never boarded this flight," she hissed. "You smell like someone who hasn't bathed in a month. You think sitting in first class makes you clean? It doesn't. It just makes this cabin stink." I blinked once, my eyes meeting hers, calm, steady. "Thank you for the reminder," I said. The woman in 2B, the French lady, saw Clara leaning in. She couldn't hear everything, but she saw the smirk on Clara's face. "That's enough," she said firmly. Clara turned, sneering. "Stay out of this." "No," the woman said. "You've gone too far." Francois stood up. His voice was firm and unwavering. "Clara, you have embarrassed yourself. You've embarrassed this airline. You've embarrassed all of us." Clara froze. "He's done nothing wrong," Francois continued. "He paid for the seat, behaved.